Have no fear, the digipreneur is here. Keron Rose joins us on the Zoom line to get into another exciting discussion. Technology, digital world, and well, AI in this regard. Of course, Keron, great to see you, man.
Always a pleasure to be here, and always great to see you, Jason.
Definitely. Before we get into our digital discussion, I got word that there's going to be a carnival on that side very soon. Is it Philippines preparing themselves for a week of celebration?
Yeah, so Carnival is going to be coming to the Philippines, and it's going to be 7 days of Carnival. There's currently a Carnival in Bali, but I think now that, you know, we are, the culture is being picked up and Trinidad style carnivals are making their way to all different parts of the world. Asia, with the population that it has and its love for Trinidad culture, I think we're going to see a lot more carnivals happening on this side of the world.
When is the Philippines Carnival, Keron?
So they announced this early. It's going to be in 2 years, 2027 in April. So it's going to be 7 days in April. The group that's putting it on is called Soca Weekender. So people can go and check them out on Facebook or Instagram. I think there's a lot of hype because, as I said, it's getting cheaper to come to these places. And then when you look at where are the most affordable places in the world, it's all in Asia. So when you think about cheap alcohol, cheap drinks, cheap accommodations, really affordable food, then you throw a Trinidad Carnival in the mix. Well, that to me sounds like a recipe to win.
It is fantastic stuff. Keep us posted with the developments. I want to take it across now to a little further east. We head to China now, still there in Asia, and we're looking at that development with DeepSeek, which is apparently out of China, making its way into the US. I'm watching some of the developments online via international media and news agencies, but I don't truly understand what's happening. And I'm hearing talk, or I saw recently via the news cycle, that some money from the stock exchange get wiped out because of this particular app. What is DeepSeek exactly? For those hearing this conversation, give us some more details.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with what is DeepSeek. So DeepSeek is a Chinese AI research lab that started off kind of shrouded in mystery. So they started off originally as a hedge fund, and they later transitioned into AI research. And they built this incredibly small, talented team of local researchers, and they were able to build this DeepSeek AI model that got released this week. It is their R1 multimodal reasoning model, and this model was doing pretty much everything ChatGPT is doing. It's like a half generation behind. But whereas the US spent over $200 billion in AI research in 2024, DeepSeek was able to build a model that rivals ChatGPT for less than $10 million. And that is what has eroded over $300 billion from the US stock market, because now people are seeing that They've downloaded the APIs from DeepSeek. They've ran their own benchmarks. They've read the research papers that were put out. They know this thing is legitimate. So whilst the US has been dumping money into AI research, China has been doing a whole lot more with a lot less. And now the entire focus as to how to proceed with AI moving forward is really changing. And we're getting some really stiff competition from the American side and the Chinese side.
So how did DeepSeek wipe out billions from the US stock market?
So basically, the reason why the money pretty much kind of got wiped out is because there's a lot of uncertainty that was caused by how DeepSeek was able to build it. AI has gotten so much funding from the US companies, right? From companies like Oracle, companies like OpenAI, companies like Meta. They've all invested so much money into AI. But now the fact that that DeepSeek was able to build something that rivals what ChatGPT and other AI models from the US are doing at a fraction of the cost, well, why would investors continue to dump all that money into companies like NVIDIA and some of the other guys when they can now, they're looking at China like, well, hey, they were able to do this for a whole lot less. You know, maybe we need to rethink how we're going about doing this. But, you know, that's essentially why the money got wiped out from the stock market.
Understood. I want to take it and push the conversation a little bit further. What's your gut feeling on these tech giants, all these, you know, Facebook, Elon Musk, all those tech men, tech giants, all these folks are rubbing shoulders and just buzzing around Donald Trump. Well, what do you think is the intent with these guys? Because I'm seeing for the first time in a real way a president is literally very cozy with some serious men in tech who could literally, at the push of a button, create the agenda, create the discussion globally. What's on the back end? What's in it for these guys?
AI presents so much new opportunities, right? And one of the executive orders that Donald Trump signed on day one of the 200 executive orders, was that he removed all restraints on AI development. That way, the American tech companies can innovate anyhow they see fit, whether it's morally right or not. There's no longer any restraints on them developing AI technology. And they did that because they've realized that China and other countries are really competing with them. And what has been holding the US back were these ethical restrictions. So now that he's removed the reins and told them to just go do their thing, they're all cozying up and they're all working together because the things that they're trying to develop are going to be out of this world. For an example, Larry Ellis, who is the CEO for Oracle, he said something at the inauguration or the day after the inauguration where he was like, the technology they have right now in medical, they have an AI tool that is able to now do earlier stage diagnosis of cancer, see exactly what cells are going bad, and with their AI technology now, they can now come up with a vaccine dedicated specifically to you and your bloodstream, right? You and your blood type within 48 hours. And AI can do so much more than humans ever could. So they're really doubling down on AI because the use cases are astronomical, and they needed to be cozied up with the US government to have these restrictions removed. That way they can innovate as much as they want. And obviously where there's innovation, there's a whole lot of money to be made.
But removing the guardrails, I mean, what's your take on that? I mean, will that ultimately cause further decay? I mean, a man called this morning and spoke of the moral compass being very low and humanity losing their way. And now with AI, the fact that you could just, whatever imagination decides to take you could go with it. Is that something to embrace in this modern time?
The moral compass is always going to be what is the issue here, right? Because I get it from an innovation perspective. You no longer have restrictions. It's no longer going to be, you can do it, but should we do it, right? Now, there's no restrictions, so now they could just innovate as wildly as they possibly can. And that is going to come with some level of risk, for sure, right? For sure, and I mean, we just gotta kind of pay attention to it. But what I think needs to start happening is, JW, the world has changed. All of these countries are now creating their new identity in this world that we live in today. When you look at what each country is focusing on and developing, there is an identity with a lot of these countries. Trinidad and the wider Caribbean, what is our identity? Because it could no longer just be tourism. It could no longer just be for us in Trinidad. It can't be carnival. The reason why I brought up the Philippines is because our identity, carnival is not going to save us, right? There is a Trinidad carnival happening in almost every single part of the world. It is easier, it is cheaper, it is more affordable to get to so many other countries. So whilst we could sit here and say Trinidad is a Mecca, it's a Mecca, it's a Mecca, okay, cool. But for the regular person who wants value for money, when they're looking at the price of one Trinidad carnival and they're realizing, wait a minute, I can get Bali, Philippines, I can get Notting Hill, I can get Vienna, Miami carnival, throw in a Grenada carnival on the cheap, and you're getting multiple carnivals. We have to start figuring out what is happening in the world and what do we want our identity to be. And if the entire world, if the biggest companies are figuring out where they want to master what section of AI and what do they want to double down on, what are we doing? I think this is the time for us now to start looking at What are the top skill sets in AI that are in need right now? And the government needs to start saying, we have to upskill our citizens. This is literally life and death at this point, because jobs are going to be wiped out. We are seeing the advancement happening at a rate never seen before. And our biggest problem is that we keep looking back and saying to ourselves, it took 10 years to do this, 20 years to do this. We haven't realized the rate of change is happening almost overnight. And we have to figure out, what is our identity going to be? What are the top skill sets that we can start to learn in AI and now create our identity so we can start to export our expertise and services to start really generating money for the country.
So you anticipate a significant shift within the next probably 5 to 10 years in terms of jobs, in terms of just, marketability, the fact that, as you rightfully said, the landscape is changing. So more or less, it's almost like a changing of the guards, a turning of a whole new page. That's what you anticipate?
Absolutely. So there was the World Economic Forum put out a report. It's a 300-page report about a week ago, right? And I did an article on it, kind of just condensing some of the top fastest growing jobs and some of the jobs that are on the way. And maybe next week we'll dive into that report specifically, right? But when you look at the fastest growing jobs, they're all tech related skill sets. When you look at the jobs that are on the way out, a lot of it is manual labor. One of the jobs that they're saying within the next 5 years is going to be, 80% kind of out of the market is cleaners. Like people cleaning, and you're sitting here right now thinking, well, how do you replace cleaners? My thing is the fact that cleaners and maids actually made that list is smoke. When there's smoke, there's fire. The fact that that is on the list means that there is something in the pipelines that is going to come out where you may not need a cleaner moving forward. But these are the things that we have to start looking at and preparing for, because the rate of change is happening overnight. A week ago, we were never talking about DeepSeek. 1 week later, it's now the #1 downloaded application on the platform, wiped out hundreds of billions of dollars from the US stock market, and now the US has their knickers in a bunch, because now they're like, wait a minute, we didn't know China was doing all of that with so much less. So we have to start figuring out, where are we going to fit in this new world? And the government has to do an amazing job at figuring out how are we going to upskill our citizens. They don't even have to reinvent the wheel. Singapore just announced their plan on how they're upskilling everybody over the age of 40. Go copy them. Go copy them and bring it into the Trinidad context.
Wow, you know what you're saying? It's almost like it reminds me of the space race when they were trying to get a man on the moon, and you had Russia and USA, in the conversation, and we find ourselves like in a different kind of race. And what my fear is, honestly, and I guess this is kind of off topic, I think when it comes down to warfare, and it's kind of, sad to bring up something so morbid so early in the morning. You see that cyber warfare, that potential cyber war that potentially could take place. I'm very fearful in that regard, because that's
we watched Terminator.
Yeah, well, right.
We watched Terminator,
right? So I guess that's one we could probably talk about somewhere further down the road for sure. But I'll give you a chance to put in some closing remarks, man. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I want people to start thinking about use cases, right? So marijuana is legal in Thailand, right? There's a dispensary everywhere. And yesterday I was at a dispensary and I had the most amazing conversation that I wouldn't even get at boardrooms in Caribbean boardrooms, right? And we're just at a dispensary. And it was with the owner of the dispensary. It was with one of the suppliers of the farm. And he was talking about how they are now leveraging AI with respects to now figuring out what strains are going to match what exactly what people want, and them starting to get into AI concierge services, so that when people or when supplier or when people that own dispensaries are looking to make purchases, they have a better understanding as to what they are bringing in. One of the other suppliers that was in the meeting they're talking about how they're collecting data and utilizing AI in their CRM to understand the needs of the business owners and the products that they're purchasing. And this is happening at a dispensary, of all places, right? Yeah. There's so many use cases for AI that we have to start thinking about. And even if you're in an industry where you feel like, AI probably is not going to touch it. Just jump on a Google search and see what is happening in your space. AI is no longer just here. It is evolved, it is maturing, and is maturing at a rapid rate where a month from now, we could see news as to jobs, particular job sets, on the way out. Like, that's how fast this thing is changing. So we here in Trinidad need to start figuring out what types of tech skills, what types of AI skills we want. And next week we'll touch on, AI skills that we should be looking into, because I have that here. And start now.
For sure. All the best again, Keron. Thank you so much, man. Keron Rose,
Take care.
our Digipreneur. Next week, God spare for sure. Digipreneur, touching base, of course, next, our director of the TNT Cancer Society, Dr. LeBlanc, with me live on set. We are touching on pap smears and screening and just general conversations around health and wellness. Dr. LeBlanc, live next.